Hey there, welcome. I am Donna Henderson. I'm an intuitive soul mentor and guide, and I am here with Annie Matan. And what we're going to be talking about today is self muscle testing. And Annie and I were talking about this recently. We're in a business mentorship group together, and I was explaining how I do self muscle testing. And she suggested, thank you very much, that we do a demo together and I show her how to do it and, then post it here on my channel. So here we are. And thank you, Annie, for suggesting that. Did you want to add anything to my little spiel there?
Well, I want to be transparent and say, in addition to our mentorship group being for business women, we're also intuitives. And yes. So we both have lots of tools in our toolkits. This is not one that I have in my toolkit. I've never done it before, and I'm really curious. So when Donna said she was going to do a video, I said, can I be your guinea pig for the video? So I'm going to be learning and practicing here with you all watching, and I don't know how it's going to go or if it'll work for me, but I wanted to say I'm not an expert, I'm a beginner, and so what's happening here is authentic.
Awesome. Thank you for adding that. I love it, and I love teaching, and I'm really glad that you offered it up and offered to be the guinea pig, and I hope it all works. But you know what, there's different types of muscle testing, and not every type works for everyone. So I'll just explain a little bit what muscle testing is, what it is that I'm talking about, in case for people that don't know. So muscle testing is a way of, and this particular type of muscle testing is a way to use your full body as a channel for connecting in with your soul, your higher self, universal consciousness, whatever you want to call it, which holds all of the truth and wisdom for you. So you'll use it to ask questions and get direction around anything that you're trying to get an answer on. And it'll give you yes, no. It's just for yes, no type of questions. And there's ways that we formulate the questions as well. So that's really important. Because our soul holds all of the answers and wisdom for us. And sometimes we get stuck in our heads trying to make a decision, and we get stuck in a loop and we can't get out of it. So it's really good for when you're struggling to decide what to do about something. It's a really good way to just kind of get that wisdom or that answer. So that kind of brings me to when do you use it? So you use it when you're struggling to make a decision on something. And it really, because you're using your body, it gets you out of your head. It bypasses your logical self. And you can use it for, big decisions or small decisions, personal decisions or business related. A lot of people, myself included, will use it to get answers around, what to do in your business if you're a business person. And like I said, you can use it for small things too. So I'll give you a little small example. There was one time, and this is going to sound silly, but I was trying to decide whether I had to go into the city, which is about an hour away from me. And I was trying to decide whether to drive in or, take the commuter train in. And I was weighing out the pros and cons, and it was rush hour time that I had to be there. And I was just, could not make a decision for the life of me.
In your head.
Totally ridiculous. I'm like, oh, but if I do it this way, whatever. Anyways. So I was like, oh, I'll just ask my body, just your soul, whatever. And so I did, and I got the answer to drive in, and there was no problem. Like it was perfect. And it wasn't even that it was perfect. It was as soon as I got that answer, I was calm. I was like, oh, yep, that's right. Okay, boom. And then I went. So it sounds kind of silly, but you can use it for small things too. And Another way I use it a lot is to test supplements. So, I'll literally be at the health food store and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to try a different brand of vitamin D, let's say. Which one should I use? And normally in the past, I would have looked at each ingredient list. Okay, this one has more, or this one's liquid, or this one's whatever. And now I might do a bit of that. And then once I've kind of narrowed it down, I just fold the bottle and my body will tell me which one. And we'll do a little demo of that too. So it's super practical, helpful too. So anyways, that's the when you use it, why you use it. Is any kind of outstanding questions that I'm
I
not
have
thinking
two
of?
questions for
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
So one is, so my sense, I know that you use a pendulum often in your practice, like a, this kind that's not in your body, and that is actually quite effective for you. So why would you do a muscle test, a self muscle test, instead of using your pendulum?
Sometimes I will use both, one to validate the other, the body to validate the external pendulum. This pendulum. I find my body will always give me the answer. Not that the pendulum doesn't, but when I tap into my body, it gives me a wisdom and a confidence in the wisdom that the pendulum doesn't. I use the pendulum more for doing my work with other people because I'm detached from it, from them, from whatever the response is for them. But for my body, like I use my body sway testing for me. Because if I wanted to, I can manipulate the pendulum. And I have a vested interest in the answer for myself. I can't manipulate my body in the same way, but the pendulum I can. But when I'm doing work for other people, I don't have a vested interest in what the answer is, so I can easily use the pendulum. So that's the difference for me for the two. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you were about to talk about this. My next question is, how do you get centered enough in your body before you do this sway testing to tune out? Do you have a practice that prepares you to tune out all of the external noise so that you can just be really present with the wisdom coming through you?
So I don't really need to do it anymore because my body just responds so quickly. And I'll do a demo of what happens for me, but it didn't used to be that way for me. When I first started doing this practice, the way my body would respond was not as definitive, and I had to do a practice. And that was literally, you could do a couple things. You can have someone else ask the questions, so you're not having to think about the question. So the other person says the question to you, and we can try it that way for you if you want. And then the other thing is literally, you know what your question is, like I know what my question is, and it's like my mouth says it, but in my head, I'm thinking about my grocery list or, what I have to do later today. Or so I say the words, but I'm like doing something else in my head. So it distracts my head with something over here. And therefore my body will just respond. Because you're talking to your body, you're actually saying body, da, 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 which engages it, right? So I say that's body, cool. XYZ. Whatever the question is. So, yeah.
And I would have thought that thinking about your groceries when you're trying to tune in would prevent your body from being able to give a clear answer. So I'm really surprised to hear, no, get your head busy elsewhere and just let the body stay present. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's at least what works for me. I mean, you might find something different. I mean, everybody is unique. So, and this particular type of muscle testing, this full body sway testing, it doesn't work for everybody. I have a couple clients that they're so in their heads that it doesn't work for them, and it'll take practice, and it may not be the type of muscle testing for them, at all. But there's lots of different types. So if you, on YouTube, you can just type in self muscle testing. It has to be self, and there's lots of good videos of like tons of different ways you can do it, but this is my favorite. So yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's see.
Okay. So we'll get to the how now. I am going to do a quick little demo. So just so you can see how I do it, and then I'll get you to stand up and we'll try a couple things. Sound good?
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. So, and I'll turn sideways so you can see. So what I do is I stand with my feet hip width apart, and I put my dominant hand on my solar plexus and my non-dominant hand on my heart. And the first time you do this, you're going to have to find out what a yes means for you and what a no means, because I know what direction my body goes in for yes, but it might be different for you. So, but I'm just going to show you. The first time you do it, you're going to do this, and you're going to close your eyes. Just take some deep breaths. And then you're going to say, body, please show me a yes. And you can see I go forward, like I get pitched for, and I'm not doing that. My body is like pitching me forward. But when I first started doing this, it was very slight, but everybody's different. And then just to confirm, you're going to say, body, please show me a no. And then I move backwards. So for me, forward is yes, backwards is no. And so that's the first time you do it. After that, you don't need to check that anymore. And then you'll ask your questions. So ready to give it a try?
Okay, I don't have the easy setup to just roll a chair back. So I'm just going to stop my video for a second and turn
Sure.
this so y'all don't have to watch that awkwardness.
Okay. Love that photo of you.
Thanks. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, why not? You can see my tree back there. And then, yeah,
nice.
So, okay.
So your feet hip width apart, and your dominant hand on your solar plexus and your non-dominant on your heart. And just
I'll try and show folks that I'm
right. Perfect. And just close your eyes, take some breaths. And when you're ready, you're going to say, body, please show me a yes.
Body, please show me a yes. So I'm also feeling myself falling forward.
Okay. Don't fall over.
Okay.
And then you're going to say, body, please show me a no.
Body, please show me a no. Whoa. So for me, a no feels like a softening, like a crumbling, like I want to fall down. My whole center just dissolved.
Got it. Cool. That's cool. So that's why it's important to check for yourself the first time you do it, so that you know, and not just assume that one way, whatever. If you watch a video on another person's muscle testing, the way they get yeses and nos may be different. So yeah. So do you have a question that you want to ask? And you don't have to say it out loud if you don't want to. It's up to you.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll start with one that I can say out loud so that I can model the process. And also I'm curious about hearing myself say things and sort of the power of that.
Yeah.
I did bring a couple of supplements.
Okay.
In particular, actually, I want to try this one. This is a flower essence, and it was made by someone we both know, actually, Monica Leilani. It's red dead nettle flower essence. And I have been taking it, but I haven't been super clear on why. So maybe I'll just ask, and how do you usually ask when you're muscle testing a supplement?
Okay, that's actually, you know what, you're reminding me, I forgot to say something earlier. So with any of the questions or a supplement or whatever, we don't want to use the word should. Should I take this? Should I go here? Whatever, because that's a judgment-y word, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
It's more, is it in my highest good to XYZ, or to XYZ now, or whatever your question is. And is this supplement in my highest good to consume today? Because a supplement today might not be good for you tomorrow. Your body might not want it tomorrow. So I check my supplements, not every day, but most days. And I also ask about dosage within reason, but do I need, 2 of these today, 2 of these capsules? And sometimes I'll get, no, you only need 1, you don't hear that, but just 2, I get a no. Only 1, yes, okay. So it's kind of it's a slower process because you're asking yes, no questions. So you want to avoid should, and is it in my highest good is a way to phrase it, I find.
Okay, Great.
Okay.
So let's try that.
Okay.
Right. And then because I'm holding the thing, where do I put my hands?
It kind of doesn't matter. It's funny because, I have this process for putting your hand on your solar plexus, etc. But honestly, like when I'm in a supplement store, I'm just using my phone as an example, but I don't say anything out loud. I just kind of go like this and my body will just go forward or backward. But I've been doing this for a few years, so you might need to do it a little differently, but I wouldn't get too fussed is what I'm saying about where to hold it or whatever. Just hold it against your heart.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like also I want to say again, in the interest of transparency, while I've never done sway testing before, I do have an embodied practice, so it's relatively easy for me to get into my body and feel that and know what's know what's happening and like feel and go with it, let go and let my body lead. And as you said, the experience can be different for different people. And so if you're new at this and it doesn't feel that easy or loud for you, it feels important to say, I've been doing other kinds of embodied practices for a long time, which is really helpful out there.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
Okay, so let's try. And I love knowing there are no really right ways. It's like do what feels right.
Exactly.
Okay. Body, is it in my highest good to take this supplement today? That's a yes.
That would be a yes, yeah.
Yeah. And I usually take 4 drops, so that's what I'm going to ask.
Okay.
Body, is it in my highest good to take 4 drops of this supplement today? Oh, I'm getting a no. My knees are
buckling.
Body, is it in my highest good to take 3 drops of this supplement today? Yep, that's a yes. Interesting. Okay, yeah. So there's a supplement test.
Yep, perfect. And you could ask tomorrow and it could be back to 4, so because, we're constantly changing, shifting energetically, physically, etc. So it's important to ask the question, with supplements every day, if you remember to. I don't always remember to, but,
And is it, I think for me, with some practices, I'm curious to see how it'll end up working with this, that as you said, like you don't even say all the things, you just sort of subtly, when you're in a store, you're kind of asking yourself internally, and you probably are doing this process a lot faster. So I wonder, the next time I reach to take it, I feel like it's possible for some folks, and I want to try, like to see about skipping steps, like to just feel as I'm getting the drops out, when to stop, for example. Like once we're tuned into our body and we can hear the messages from our body loudly enough, we might not have to do the whole process. Yeah, and even say all the things, right? Like, so when you asked about 4 drops, you got to know. And then when you asked about 3 drops, you said the whole phrase again. You could just say 3 drops, and start to skip all the words. And I'll give another quick example. I was recently at a metaphysical store with a friend of mine, and they had a display of Oracle card decks, which I love. And I was like, ooh, which Oracle card deck should I buy? And so I picked up a deck. I'm like, oh, I love this one. I love what it looks like. I loved what the topic theme it was. And so I just kind of held it and my body just went backwards. And I'm like, nope. No, but I want that, but it doesn't matter. So then I picked up a different one and my girlfriend was laughing at me because she said, when I picked up the other deck, again, I held it to me. And before I even, formulated anything in my head, she said it looked like I got pitched forward into the bookcase. She said that I'm going to fall into the bookcase because I just literally, my body just responded so quickly. But it didn't used to happen that way. It's all an evolution. So it's like different. Working your muscles, right? So it gets, and like anything we practice, the process can get easier and simpler and shorter. And also depending on how present we are, I think, right? Like, how much we're able to tune in. Exactly. Yeah, so maybe I'll try, rather than doing another supplement, I'll try a different kind of question. Yeah, try a question, sure. And I think I'm going to do this one silently.
Sure, that's fine. Mhm.
Okay, that was a yes and
Mhm.
an unexpected one, actually.
Okay, okay.
I'm trying to think of a question that I feel like I can ask, and like something simple, maybe about what I'm going to have for lunch. I don't know.
Yeah, like, should I have this or should I have that? So ask, should I have this? Yes or no? Should I have that? Yes or no?
Okay.
Yeah.
So y'all are going to find out something about the food in my freezer. I have a 5-year-old, and right now there's a very large bag of chicken fingers in the freezer. So that's one of the things I've been considering for lunch.
Okay.
And it's interesting because really I want to decide between the chicken fingers and a burger. And I think I know what I want, but I'm curious to see what my body will say.
Yeah, good.
Body, is it in my highest good to eat chicken fingers for lunch? Huh, okay. Well, that felt like a yes, which is not what I was expecting.
There you go.
I don't even know if I should ask about the burger.
Well, do it. I'm just curious to see.
Yeah, because I'm like, what if it says yes? Then what do you do?
Okay. Well, let's try.
Body, is it in my highest good to have a burger for lunch? Oh, I'm still getting a yes.
Right.
So what if I'm just saying yes to everything? How do I know?
Well, so what your body is saying is either one is fine.
Okay.
Basically.
Oh,
right?
either one. Okay.
It's saying yes, you can, it's in your highest good to have this. It's not a comparison because it's not comparing the two. It's when we ask the questions, it's very literal. So yes, chicken fingers are good for my body today. And same thing for a burger. So then, you could either ask a third thing, or if you're really wanting to know, or you could say, okay, well, I feel more like X, Y, Z, because it's not a question that's critical to know about.
Right.
Sometimes,
an easy one.
Yeah, sometimes we can get the same sort of thing, like a yes to two things that is more of a question that we're more invested in, like not just what we're having for lunch, but something, a bigger question. And that's when we have to engage our mind in between and say, okay, so how can I phrase the question differently? That's when we start to use our intuition. Mm-hmm. And that kind of just takes some practice, because sometimes we'll get answers that seem to conflict, but they don't. Mm-hmm. It's how we're asking the question. So how we're asking the question is really critical. And that just takes practice. And sometimes then it's helpful to reach out to someone else and bounce the idea off them, which is why you're not going to do it for what am I having for lunch, really. But for some other things, if you're trying to make a bigger life decision, let's say, sometimes another perspective can help.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about, there's a program that I've been thinking about running, and I get all excited about it when I feel like I have lots of energy for it. And mm-hmm. then when things feel hard, I'm like, I don't even want to think about this. I can't do it. Mm-hmm. So that might be another one that's sort of more impactful.
Right.
And then depending on, like, if I got a yes, then I would get more nitty gritty into the how, like, should I do it? Right. Is it in my highest good rather than should? To do it this way, is it in my highest good to do it that way? You know, and try and get some of the details sorted out.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
That'd be useful.
Yeah, and remembering that when you're asking, you're getting the answers for in that moment.
Right.
Excuse me, and it could change because things are constantly shifting and changing. Although all we ever have is the now. So the now that you're asking it in is the now that's where the answer is applicable. But yeah, you can use it for those kinds of fine tuning, figuring out the pricing of your program, all that sort of thing. And I've definitely used it for that too. So yeah, absolutely.
I want to sit back down and ask you another clarifying question.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Turn the camera off while I shift.
All right. We get to look at your beautiful photo again.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. So one thing that occurs to me, we both know a little bit about human design. And I think we both have emotional authority in human design.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about how the answers are in the now, I know that that's true with certain types of authority, decision-making power in terms of human design, and emotional authority isn't an in the now authority. And so I wonder about that. I'm like, well, how do I know, maybe how do I distinguish between whether I should take my time to feel something out or whether I can trust that in the moment body response?
That's a really good question. And I never looked at it that way before. But what's coming to me is, and this is just how I work, I know when to use the sway testing to get my answers. So I think because I've, in my emotional authority, navigated to a certain point, and then it comes to me intuitively, oh, I should sway test on that in that moment. So I know it comes to me in the moment that I'm meant to do the sway testing. Do you know what I mean? So, and that's just how my intuition works. Again, I think if we overthink it, like some people might have the tendency to think about, when should I do it? Should I do it now? It's not about thinking about it. It's just about listening to your wisdom as to when to do it. If it comes to you, then it's then to do it. That's kind of the simplest way I can describe it. Does that make sense or help? I think that's
so. I think also because you're more practiced at it, you have it ready in your toolkit, so it'll pop up for you. And it occurs to me that it's for me, I think when I'm going to try it is when I'm feeling stuck in the moment, because it's because it'll help me with guidance in the moment. Whereas often the sort of bigger life decisions, although these days, all life decisions can feel really hard with everything that's happening in the world. So even to say, well, to choose a right now piece of that, like to help me choose the next right thing. Right. To quote Frozen 2. So for me, I think that would be the distinction is if I can't even figure out which direction to point my energy in, that the sway test can help guide me there.
Right. And I would add to that, in the meantime, like anytime, practice it. Like practice the sway testing for things that aren't like big important decisions. Things like you just did with what should I have for lunch? Like just as a way of practicing, so that when the moment comes that it feels right to use it to make a bigger decision, then you have more practice because you're training your body, right, to respond. And especially for people like you're very embodied and you do this kind of work in general in other ways. But if there's people out there who are not used to either using this tool or tend to get stuck in their head a lot or are not as embodied as a practice, then practicing is what will be really helpful when it's the bigger questions, if that makes sense.
Total sense. Yeah, great. Well, I'm looking forward to trying out some other questions after this, after we are done the recording, and maybe when we turn the camera off, I'll even ask you to help me with some of them. Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll wrap up the recording for now. Thank you so much for doing this demo with me, Annie, and for suggesting it, because I was just going to do it myself, but it's so much more fun to have a guest on and do a demonstration and teach a little bit. So I really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye for now.